welcome aboard, man. This is one of the very first episodes I'm doing of the All Equity podcast, and just to keep it real, this is not like a scripted thing. This is just us having a regular conversation.
Let's do it.
It's black men talking about life, what's going on with business, family, whatever we want to talk about, man. So why don't you just tell the people kind of a little bit about you, your business, and where you're at right now in your journey.
Good. Okay. So yeah, a little bit about myself. First off, my name is Josh Hunt. Shout out to Venture X, shout out to Sync Lab Media, where I'm recording this. But yeah, a little bit about myself. I'm the founder of Bolt. Bolt, it is a company that bridges the gap between culture and corporate. And the way we do that is through workshops, activations, which is experimental marketing, and consulting. And we just focus on cultural topics and relative topics like diversity. And that's, how we met. And I'm super excited to, chat with you. We chat for about like an hour and 15 minutes. And it didn't even feel like that whenever we were
talking. For real, it didn't, yeah.
Right there, we were able to, create that synergy, and we were able to relate to each other too as well. And we have a lot of similar experiences. And, one of the similar experiences we've had growing up and just being in this industry, which is corporate, is just, that red tape and not feeling like you can be your true self. Like I said, I got a dangling cross earring. I don't feel like, I could have been myself, a couple of years ago in corporate. Right. These things are, kind of, taking its form, and they're allowing creatives in that space. But I want to be a part of that change and create a safe place for, different people to, interact and be a part of that cognitive diversity that we talked about, and a part of that change.
Man, that was a solid intro.
Yeah.
Woo! I think the coolest thing about Josh is just his level of transparency and awareness. So like one of the things we were talking about is when you're in that corporate space and you're code switching,
right?
There's a certain level of we're not showing them who we really are.
Right, exactly.
Right. That's really what it is. People don't want to admit it. They don't want to be honest about it. It's like, oh, well, no, I'm being corporate or whatever. No, you're being white. we chose to be that way to get where we wanted. And we didn't tell people that we weren't being our real self. And that's just real. Like,
that's fact.
I don't talk to any of those coworkers.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, I have a gentleman who's actually whose whole studio this is. He worked at for several years, so I have a little bit of insight of like how it is to work there as well. So I mean,
yeah, we'll keep the names out of it, but certain things, doesn't matter where it is, whether if it's Google or Facebook, whatever. Right. As awesome as that job title is, it doesn't carry weight like your character.
Facts. Agreed.
End of story, right? Like your character, Josh, by itself is one of the most powerful things someone in that position can do is hire someone like you.
Right. Why do you think that they shy away from doing
that? I think it's like when you're a leader, that fear of getting called out that first time. If someone's on your team that's, black or brown says, I don't like this, or this makes me feel uncomfortable, it feels like this, right? It feels like, ooh.
Cool, right. Mm-hmm.
Instead of it feeling just like a chin check.
Mm-hmm. Right?
If you're a good leader, that should just be a chin check. It's not a complete attack on your entire being as a human.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna make mistakes. You're gonna make mistakes. Someone's gonna say, "Oh, you got this wrong," or "You weren't inclusive in this scenario," and you and I are gonna go, "Oh yeah, that's my bad. That's my bad. Let me do better next time."
Exactly.
But that's not how other people operate.
Right.
Right. Why do you think that is?
Well, I just think people feel safe with, when like something similar to what you said. It's just like it's more comfortable. Like I'm more comfortable just being transparent. I'm more comfortable around the people that look like me as well. You know what I mean?
Right.
I would probably, I wouldn't, if I was in that position, I have, which I am, I hire a cognitive diverse team because
Yeah.
I know from the experiences that I've had, um, these experiences is what got me here. So it's being in different places and meeting different people, and being around different people actually expanded my horizon, I should say, um,
Yeah.
and the way I view life, and the way I work, and it's actually sharpened my skills. And like you said, like you're somewhat um, scared to get chin checked when you meet someone with a different belief than you. There was someone
Right.
who disagreed with me politically, and
Right.
disagree with them, and you know what? I got coffee with them because
Mm.
of everything about their perspective, and they wanted to know mine, and we actually became good friends after that. Uh,
Wow.
yeah, so it's one of those things where you can't be afraid to learn and then see new views, and have new views because they actually sharpen the ones that you have. So I just think it just boils down to being comfortable with the people that you're with, and the people that
Mm.
you've grown up with. So if that's in the corporate space, if you're in the C-suite, you're more than likely, at the country clubs and at the
Mhm.
sky lounges and things like that. And these are the people that you're comfortable with. And that's understandable. However, I will say that you know, branching out will actually increase that engagement and that brand as well too, as well, that you're working with. So once, which is what
Mm.
I think is happening now, where brands are starting to see um, what they have been doing in some of these corporations that have been appropriating the culture, appropriating talent, are starting to give those people recognition and let those people in. So,
Mm.
and I just that's why we're here, and that's what you do as well, and
Yeah.
I respect it 100% and support it 100%. So yeah.
That's love, man. I think there were so many thoughts going through my head when you were saying that. Just one of the first things was Tom, right? The Tom, the
Yeah.
Gerald, or whatever you want, the
Right.
typical white dude that's in the C-suite
Right.
who's chilling at the yacht club or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then, people always say, well, reverse racism, you're only hiring black people, or
Right.
you're only comfortable, you're only comfortable around black and brown people. You don't want white people on your team or whatever.
Yeah.
How do you feel about when people say that?
That's a great question. Because the first person I actually hired was white. The first
Mm.
person I ever worked with was white. However, I I I don't believe there is a such thing as reverse racism. And I don't really get too deep into it. I'm not like an expert on racism and things like that. Because I shifted my mind to not even you know, be the victim in certain situations.
Mm.
Um, much so that I have a positive outlook on that, and I just be like, I'm going to use this to my advantage. However, to
Oh.
answer the question, um, I think that yeah, there's no such thing as reverse racism because it's like a privilege, and having a team that isn't diverse, whether that's all black or all white, if it isn't a
Mm.
in a sense, and maybe not all white because that there may be some privilege there.
Yeah, like I really wonder if the people that say that it is reverse racism say there's one white person on my team
Right,
and everybody else is black and brown.
right.
Is that an inclusive workplace, or is that a uh would a white person feel like that's like a negative? Like that's such an interesting concept to me. Like I understand it just from a 1 + 1 = 2, like
Right,
that level of thinking.
right,
But when you dig deeper, for sure, I definitely would agree with you that it'd be really hard to make a case that
right, and-
400 years,
right. But in the
you,
end,
you know, I don't know.
I was about to say in corporate, I feel like um, that's not the norm. So
Right.
for if let's say someone who was white joined the team like that for a year or two. There's nothing wrong with that. That's you'll probably learn more within that aspect to take back to another corporation or another organization because of all the way that everyone thought and how everyone thought differently from you. I rather actually work
Mm,
around people that don't look like me, whether they're, like I said, white, brown,
right.
any Asian, it doesn't matter. I rather work with someone who doesn't look like me. I would say I'd rather work with. Let me take that back. I enjoy working with people who
Gotcha. There's not really a preference. It's just what you've been accustomed to.
exactly.
Got it.
So
Yeah, I'd agree with you because definitely when I was in tech, I think, um, wow, this is gonna take some thought. I think my most comfortable days were honestly not when I was not surrounded by only white people
mm, right, facts. Like
because it's just too it's too because then they start feeling uncomfortable and they start putting their microaggressions on you, and that's not a place you want to be in.
right. It's not.
It's just
And
not.
I did a poll not too long ago. It was right after the George Floyd incident, and some people were still going back to their workspaces, where
Mm,
people were still working from home, just going out. Um, the limited times I did go out, obviously I was safe, wore a mask and everything. However, I still felt that microaggression, like you mentioned, from
mm,
people. And I'm a really deep person, and I just know energy doesn't lie. So if
it does not.
they're looking at me, I can feel them looking at me like you're part of the riots, or you're a part. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Exactly. It's like I bet you don't want to be here, and like they're judging you. Even if they're judging you in a positive way,
right? It's
they're
subliminal,
putting their energy onto you, their guilt, their feelings, their whatever onto you.
exactly, and you can feel that, and that takes a toll. And a lot of people don't know that. Um,
Yeah,
that actually does affect us. And affect,
exactly. Exactly.
and that if that affects me personally, that obviously could carry over into my work, into my work life balance, my family, um, like the friends that I talk to. These things can begin to seep in, and you may start losing confidence in yourself and things like that. And it's just like one of those
Yeah.
things where it could all be avoided if the problem was brought to light, which is what is being brought now. And that's why I'm loving this movement. I'm loving what's going on. I wouldn't say it's it's better late than never.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But it's something that I've been pushing for the last year and a half, and I stand behind wanting to create that safe place for creatives and just cultural cognitive diversity. And
Mm.
the 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 I guess the simpler we're able to explain exactly what it is, the easier people understand it, and then we're
Right.
able to move forward.
And when you say cognitive diversity, I think people need a breakdown of that because the way you explain it to me is really good. Can you break that down?
Yeah. So when I say cognitive diversity, that just means obviously cognitive. I wouldn't say obviously, but it's cognitive is like it has to do with the way you think. It has to do with
Mm.
what goes on in your mind, and having different people who think differently um, is very very advantageous. And the way that these people think differently, they come from different backgrounds and different cultures and different experiences, and those are all boiled into what is their perspective, if you will.
Yeah.
So having different perspectives around you. And if I have four different perspectives, I was listening to a podcast yesterday by Ed Milet, and it was on diversity, and he was just saying, like, and I was just like, wow, I would have never thought I heard a diversity uh, uh, podcast by Ed Milet. And he was just talking about how his team is so diverse, and it just made me think about, like, yep, there it is, cognitive diversity. Like, that is what makes a very strong team. That's what makes a strong
Mm.
business. No matter, you can name a company, and I'll point out why they're so great, and it's going to be because they have different people that think differently. They
Mm.
may not have gotten that attention, or that what do you call it, that
That
recognition,
diversity stamp.
yeah, that diversity stamp. But
Right.
there's that they definitely have someone in that's thinking differently from them, and it's helped them reach new heights, and able to bring in you know influencers that are authentic with your brand, that's cognitive diversity right there. They don't think the same as a corporate, structure, but it helps your brand. You know what I mean? So
Right.
yeah, I
Yeah.
hope
One of the things that's like
I
really
don't.
hard for me sometimes is you'll see online, right, when people, the diversity, the entire concept, it's so intellectualized
Right,
to the point where people are like afraid to just jump in.
right,
It's like, what am I saying the right thing?
yeah.
Have you ever felt that way, or what would you say to people that do feel that way?
Wait, what's the question again? I'm sorry.
So people that feel like, well, I'm not a diversity expert, I don't want to jump in on this,
Right.
you know,
Okay.
right? How do
And,
those people
and
get
I
involved?
Yeah, and I think that the people who aren't diversity experts, they need to hire people like me and you because we understand, diversity and inclusion. And am I answering the question the right way?
Yep.
Um, okay, sweet. Well, yeah. So I'm definitely, I definitely think that there are experts within that space. Those are people who are multifaceted, who can, I wouldn't say shapeshift, but someone who can relate to different cultures and
Mm.
they're able to be more relatable. That's just the facts. It's fact.
Ah, so
There's
you think like an expert is just innately more relatable, which makes them able to hear and understand and mediate different cultures within a workspace.
Yes, I 100% agree. And
Hmm.
well, like you and myself, I believe that we were born as for such a time as this. Um,
Hmm.
and everyone, I believe that everyone is created to solve a problem on this earth. And I feel like I was created, and I didn't know this until I started personal development and all that stuff, and then
Right.
was able to see my purpose. It was like, wait, so I've been, I love business. I love corporations. I love how it works. I just love how business works. I love the way people think. I love humans, and I put the two together, and this is where I am. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it takes a special type of person, I believe, to be able to relate and pull both sides together to where they're able to relate um, each other side to each other. And then I feel like that's, when you're able to grow and move forward. So it, like I said, it's, it's something that a company can try to do on their own.
Yeah.
But the way corporations are set up and the way business has been ran for years, it's pretty scripted and it's pretty structured. And the true change and true inclusion happens authentically. And if you're not able to
Mm.
create that true authentic experience, it's not going to change. So you need someone who can come in there and be like, hey, I've been doing this. I know how to create this experience for you. And that's what increases that engagement too with your employees and your teams and all of that. It boils down to, like I said, just um, being an expert in that space or having someone who can relate to both sides.
Mm.
Yeah.
Do you think as a younger person, especially in these times right now, when you see online how people are reacting to the pandemic
Right.
and the way that, the corporate, the landscapes are shifting so much within different systems,
Right.
whether it's corporation, small business, like so many businesses are going broke. And
Right.
that's like such a scary thing. But like when you look at it from your perspective, being so young,
Right.
do you think this is like a one-time thing that's happening, or is this was something that can happen again and we all need to be like prepared? Like, was this like a wake-up call for us, or like how are you internalizing this whole experience?
That's a great question. I just think that personally, because this is something that I've always thought, I wouldn't say always thought, but definitely over the last 2 years, um, I knew that in order for brands to continue to relate or be relatable to people, humans, um, they would need to start looking like us.
Mm.
And I know a statistic I shared with you last time we talked was millennials, is the most diverse generation there is.
Right, right, right. You were
Gen-
talking about the National Geographic cover.
National Geographic cover, exactly. where
Right.
a few years ago, they had a young lady on there with the hazel eyes and
Mm-hmm.
bright, obviously mixed, very culturally looking. And
Right.
this is something that isn't going to change. It's not going anywhere. It's only getting more diverse. So I knew that in order for some of these brands and corporations to, continue to grow, and reach the
Mm.
audience they want to reach, that they were going to need to either start becoming and morphing to look like the people, or hire someone who does look like the people to bring the two together, because
Mm.
it's not going to work, without that, especially as more, um, uh, as more diversity is even happening with the generation under us. So,
Mm.
I think we're at the tip of the iceberg right now, where, things are going to change dramatically. But it's going to change dramatically for the better. And I'm not,
Right.
we're not looking to come in here and just take everyone's jobs, or we want
Right.
everything to be changed, and we just, no, we don't want no structure. Like, that's
Right. Right.
how we think. Um, where we love structure, where we're not animals. We want to, we want to to be successful. And when you're able to make that person within your organization feel valued, they not only, feel like they have a purpose, but then that purpose turns into better work, better results.
Right.
You increase your bottom line, better
Mm-hmm.
retainment. All that comes
Mm-hmm.
with that. So yeah.
And so, what makes you feel valued, and how can we help people feel more valued?
Man, what makes me feel valued? That's a great question. What makes me feel valued? I would say the first thing, man, honestly, pay that, like, what I'm worth. Like, you wouldn't argue with,
Yeah.
someone who maybe didn't necessarily look like me, who had the same type of information,
Background,
type of
experience,
type of
value.
bringing, and yeah, exactly. Like, pay that person with their worth. Like, that's one way to bring value, or, just to feel valued, is if I'm being paid what I'm worth, and what I'm bringing to the table. Another way I would say would be to, um, I guess, just acknowledgement
Mm.
is huge. Um,
Publicly or privately?
Publicly, privately, all of it. And just a quick tip, if this is, going out,
Yeah.
acknowledgement is important for all millennials and all generations Z. This is something that you should be doing constantly. You should
Mm.
constantly being transparent. And that's something I loved about all approach, like the way that you guys, your whole process and what you do, and you show your team and your journey. Like, I'm gonna definitely be tuning in to follow, because it's it's that transparency, and
Mm.
that transparency is what, I guess, uh, uh, separates you from others. But back on point, being valued.
Right.
I see that you value, the people that you work with in your team, and that's important. That's, and it looks like you do it continually. I can just tell you even created a whole group, so it looks like, people are being valued continually, and that
Right.
makes you part of something. Like, I got a part of, I accepted the request you sent for the diversity, inclusion group on
Mm-hmm.
LinkedIn. And, that makes me feel good. I feel valued. I'm like, oh wait, someone notices that's what industry, I'm in. And then you put me in
Mm.
that organization. That's another form of value right there. Sharing information, that's value, you know, like, and I think that it's, it's, it, it's sometimes kept away for some
I
reason.
see. Yeah. I think the reason is because it's like the gotcha moment. People don't want to get exposed for saying the wrong thing,
Mm.
and that scares them more than even trying.
Right. I agree. I agree.
Right.
Yeah.
So like at the end of the day, if someone, let's say Joe, who's 75, is attempting to be more inclusive in his finance firm that his family has owned for 200 years, right?
Right.
And he goes online, he's going to look at, if he's in that kind of thinking, he
Right.
may look at diversity as a risk,
Hmm.
which is absolutely wrong,
Right.
right? If there's nothing risky
Yeah.
about not being white. That's the way they
Like,
think, some of these people.
Yeah,
right?
I agree. It's an interesting time, and it's an interesting topic. I actually haven't had a conversation like this, and like I said, I was definitely down to do this with you because you do, have similar beliefs, and like I said, the experience is there, in terms of like, you know, your near death experiences bring your near death experience brought you to, this whole new
Mm,
this whole new, excuse me, a little burp, sorry.
you good?
This new experience, or that near death experience, brought you a whole new perspective, and
Right.
not a lot of people can say that they've done that, or have had that happen to them. So you got to just look at it from an experience standpoint. Like, hey, I'm not taking a risk by hiring this guy who's out of the hood. That's where I'm from. I grew up, you know,
Mm.
like I said, four brothers, one sister.
What
Um,
what city?
Originally from California. Currently live in Dallas, Texas. And we moved to Dallas. So staying in a two bedroom apartment, with
Mm.
with
Wow.
bunk bed, two bunk beds. It was different, But
Right.
that experience for me created a willpower, that might not a lot of people may have. It created definitely endurance, the ability to, street smart thing. That's a thing, believe it or not. When you take that to business, it definitely created a sense of responsibility too that, you know, not a lot of people may have that at an early age where you got to be the one that goes stand in the line to get groceries at the Salvation Army. These are just things that,
Mm.
you know, I did growing up that was
That was key what you just said.
like,
I want people to skip over that.
yeah, well,
Being a kid standing in line at Salvation Army. Talk about that for a second. What was that like?
oh, what was it like? It was different.
But how do you know it's different? You see what
I,
I'm saying?
was different. So actually, the Salvation Army at the time, they granted me a scholarship to go to a private school,
Mm.
which was Tyler, and I went there and I had friends, Jason and Trevor, and I went
Oh.
to their house, and I was like completely different from my house. You have like, oh snap, that's super cool. You have a pool in your backyard? Like what? I only thought that
Right.
those were like, at the YMCA or something. You know what I mean? So getting to see getting to see that, and then going back to my home and having, like I said, standing in line, to get groceries, it was completely different. And I just knew that I wanted better for myself. So that
Mm.
caused me to naturally develop, discipline, and to approach life differently than most people, because it's like this, I'm not in it, you know, for myself at that point. I'm
Right.
in it for others, and I'm doing it to, for my family and things like that. So it's like I have a lot more on the line, than a lot of the other people.
Right.
Um, and that just comes with, or I guess what I'm trying to say is that, like, I approach situations differently because of that,
Mm.
because of those experiences. Yeah. And,
You feel
and
like the stakes are higher probably too.
higher for sure. Like I was not chilling during quarantine. Like a lot of
Mm.
people, the stakes weren't that high. I'm constantly working because stakes are high for me.
Mm.
Stakes are, I'm sure it's high for you. So it's just
Right.
things where, you know, it's it's that's why you include different people into, that don't look like you, into your team, or you share information because you're able to, get someone to look at it differently from you, because of their, like I said, experiences and things that they've been through. But yeah, the standing in line was never fun. It was it
Wow.
was rough. But nonetheless, I'm grateful, for those moments, because it just makes the the leveling up that much better. It brings more fulfillment, I feel like, too, as well.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, you touched on something. The it brings more fulfillment.
Mhm.
I think a lot of people don't understand why.
Why? Yeah.
And so when you're hiring a black employee who may be from a background like yours,
Right.
in their mind, sometimes it's like, oh, I made it to this big company, I made it,
Right.
right?
Right.
But deep down, we want to educate people to already feel that way about themselves and not
Oh,
need that validation
mm-hmm.
and let their character be that stamp of approval,
Oh, yep, yep, exactly. Because
right?
yeah, those things built and taught me character all throughout.
Right, right.
Struggling through high school, even through college. I mean, I was on a full ride to Wake Forest, and
Mm.
my mom, would do her best and send me like little goodie bags, and I would see the kids down the hallway in the dorm where they got Porsche on their keys and Mercedes Benz, and their
Wow.
boxes were a lot 10 times bigger than mine. But like I said, that just built endurance, and that built a lot of character within myself to you know know that I have to keep going and like keep striving for better, because I want better for myself and my family. So, but yeah, that's the character is a huge thing that you brought up, and that's
Yeah.
very important for sure, definitely.
When I was 16, man, I can remember
Yeah,
the first time I really got exposed to you remember Amway?
Amway. Yes.
Yeah. You remember that?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They
Hmm.
had, I think they had like a little original Netflix. They were on one of those Netflix originals.
It's like a pyramid scheme or whatever.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Right? Exactly. Yeah.
I want to jump the gun. One of those Netflix originals about like fraud companies or something like that.
Exactly. And I swear, man. So I was working at Guitar Center,
Yeah.
and I was like 18, and this dude walked in, our age, young dude. He was like 23, 4 maybe, and he just, I could tell the minute he walked in, he was not really a customer.
Right.
It's so weird how you pick up on that immediately. I'm on the sales floor, and I just could tell something was different about this dude.
Yeah.
Come to find out, his parents pretty much own Amway.
Oh wow.
So this kid worth like $50 million.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
He walks up to me. He goes, "Hey man, I'm thinking about getting some equipment because I'm trying to something." I don't remember. He's trying to like play around, right? He's
Right.
luxury shopping, right? And I'm in the
Right.
DJ
I was about to say
department,
fun.
the fun shopping, right? Turntables, all that, and the pro audio gear and stuff. And he's like, "Yeah, I want to make sure you get the commission though, and everything, and all this stuff." And so I see now the wheels turning. And I was like, "What's this dude trying to do?"
Right. Right.
And then he starts talking about this opportunity, and
Mm,
because I wanted better for my life, and
mm,
I could sense something was different, I listened to his little pitch about Amway, and then he invited me to their little meetings.
right. Right.
Bro, this is some cult shit.
Sure.
So, I walked in there and pyramid scheme, cult, whatever, and all these people selling uh, health goods or whatever it was.
Right.
And then I kept in touch because I wanted to keep the network because I know how powerful this dude is. And also, I felt like we were becoming real friends because he went to my house, we met my mom, all these things.
Yeah.
Come to find out, really, he's just trying to groom me to become uh, one of the people, affiliate marketers or whatever, right?
Mhm.
But he goes so far. This is what's crazy why I bring this up. He goes so far as to bring me to his penthouse in Bellevue, basketball players next door,
Mhm.
top floor. We walk in the parking garage. Imagine this.
Right.
Chirp, chirp. Actually, hold on a second. No chirp, chirp. No chirp, chirp. He
Yeah.
just starts opening cars.
Yeah.
Open the Porsche.
Right.
Open the Ferrari. And I was like, "What are you doing? Why are you just open? We should just open all of them. We should just start opening all of them." It's like, "Why? These aren't your cars." And he's like, "Oh yeah, we own these." Like, what? He just opened like 10 cars.
That's crazy.
And that crazy dude, I'm just like a kid, and he's just opening these cars, didn't explain. oh, these are our cars. This is our lot life. This is our penthouse. None of that. He just starts opening them. And in that moment, I knew right there.
Yeah.
I knew I wasn't going to be him
You're right.
because what he was trying to do was get more diversity in his organization because he saw my talent.
Right.
And that was his way, is by flashing a bunch of cash, right? But I wanted, like you were saying, that authenticity. I
Right.
wanted to be valued as a friend,
Right.
as someone talented, an entrepreneur. And
Right.
that was the kind of relationship I thought he was offering me.
Yeah.
Right. And so then, sure enough, when I told him I wasn't interested, he never talked to me again.
Yeah.
Never picked up the phone, nothing.
Right.
And to this day, I think about that. I think about that whole scenario and
Right.
being in that Lambo and like all that crazy stuff. Because here's the other crazy part. It was like a whole day. So we were hopping in the cars, but then what he did is he said, "There's this thing called a Stingray. It's like a high-powered go-kart that goes 80 miles an hour,
Oh, okay.
and you can just drive it on the freeway."
Yeah. Yeah.
We hopped in that. Everybody was like taking pictures of us, and then we were going 90 miles an hour on the freeway. Cop pulled us over, didn't even care.
Wow. Yeah.
Cop wrote a ticket. He didn't care. He was like, "I'll pay it later. I don't care." And he just hopped right back. We just hopped right back in.
Yeah.
100 miles down the 405, dude. I was like, this is privilege at its finest, bro.
It happens.
Right? So that I definitely right then I realized like, okay, as an entrepreneur, that's not who I really want to be.
Right.
Is there a moment for you that you knew, here's my path as an entrepreneur and what I'm trying to do that's authentic, and here's not what I want to do? Do you have one of those moments in your life?
Let me think about that. Give me a second.
Yeah.
Let me see. Yeah, actually, I do. So I was working, and I'm gonna say the name. I was working at a gym, Diesel. That is D-I. No, I'm just kidding. They're located at no.
Oh.
The owner, um, and I was the owner. I admired him when I first. So I came into the gym. I was actually doing yoga across the street. There's this place. It was core powered across the street. And I seen the gym next, and I was like, "Oh, wow! I didn't know there's a gym over here." Because I was at I was at that time I was at Lifetime, and I was just like, "Yeah, Lifetime's getting kind of heavy on the pocketbooks. They're a little expensive." And time to switch jobs during this time, and he actually sold me on doing like a position there. Um, After I was trying to inquiring about the gym, and he was just like, "Yeah, well, what do you do?" And he was just like, "Hey, well, I could do part time here and work." Now, I like this dude so much because he sold me on his, personality,
Right.
how he was, like his Tesla he had parked out in the front. No one could park in that parking spot. Like, I was just like, yeah, this is a cool guy. Seems like, I want to understand, you know, I want to understand him more. Because he said he started from the bottom and all this other stuff. Turns out he didn't start from the bottom.
He ain't Drake.
Highland Park, and I know you're from Seattle. Highland Park is one of the like richest areas in Dallas, and it was it dawned on me that just like, wow, like this person who's not even kind to his employees, um, the people that's around him. Yeah, he's really cool with the members and things like that, but the people that actually
Pizzazz and stuff.
trainer gym, the trainers there, like they all did not like him like that. He just wasn't who I inspired or was wanting to be and become. So I ended up, you know, leaving the gym. And I was just like, you know what? I thought that this particular person was going to be, somebody who I could just learn and glean from.
Right.
I was already, on NASM, getting my personal training license to have on the side. A lot of the personal trainers there, they're in real estate. They're one of them is in corporate. One of them, like I said, in corporate, he's a C-suite. He's still a trainer. I think that's pretty cool because I don't want to just, do business I love. the health side, and we can get into that some other time. But the health and wellness, health and fitness, mental health, all that to me too as well. Um,
Right.
but but yeah, so just watching how he moved, it definitely changed my thought of how I should treat people that work
Mm.
for me, or
Yeah.
work with me, and that's just being a kind person, being a good person to them, having just being a stand up guy and not always you know just in it for the money and not caring about people's actual problems. So I sat down and told him that I had an issue with my brother. I had to fly to California, and I get back. First off, he was just like, "Yeah, sure, go ahead." Didn't really ask too many questions. I get back, he was just like, "How's your brother?" I was in the middle of telling him how he was, and he was just like, cuts me off, and just
Wow.
me about something else, and I'm just like, I was talking about a very serious situation, and just his lack of awareness, and relatability was
Mm.
something that I was just like, you know what, that can't be me. I gotta be more relatable. I gotta
Right.
be fair, and I gotta be kind to people. Um, and I think those three things is what I took away from it for sure. Yeah.
And how do you feel like is a good way to do that as an employer without coming across as like when you everybody knows that guy who's like, "What's up, brother? How you doing?" Like that white guy who does that, who's trying to be relatable and cool, right?
Yeah.
Um, a lot of those type of people are going to see this.
Yeah.
What would you say to that person who's trying to be who is a
Relatable.
good dude? Yeah, who's a good dude, but they always using the
Yeah. Hey,
"What's
bro.
up, brother?"
I got you. See, I don't necessarily have a problem with that. But the way to be
Yeah.
more relatable than that would be to just listen to,
Mm,
say, hey, I don't understand what you're going through or what you've been through. Do you mind telling me? You know, Let me hear it from your perspective. And like I said, there it goes back to sharing different perspectives. I
hmm.
would be like, hey, I don't understand where you've gone either or been, sir. So if you don't mind sharing your perspective with me, and
Right.
we're able to grow together. And that's when cognitive diversity comes in, where you'll hear my perspective and you'll hear where I come from, and then now you're able to relate better. You're able
Mm,
to have an I wouldn't even say an edge, but essentially that's what it is. It's like you have an edge on the conversation. If I know where you're from, and that's why people go to each other's LinkedIn profiles before you chat with them or talk to them.
exactly.
If you want to know about that person, it's the same thing you just do with human connection. You talk to them face to face and be like, hey, tell me about yourself. I don't understand it, so help me understand.
Mm,
And that's where authenticity comes, and we were talking about earlier. It's just that's what it boils down to. Being able to hear that person
mm,
is how you're able to relate.
mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the hearing with the mind and the ears,
Yeah.
the
Mm.
thought process of the way you listen.
Right. The way
Because
you.
one of
Mm.
the things I've had to figure out with my clients too is like you may give an instruction or some advice that if they executed it right, it would change their life. I've been able to see that like some of my clients, they will execute what I say,
Right.
and then 3 months later, they don't have to work ever again in terms of like having an employer. They're their own, or as in being an employee. They're no longer an employee.
Right.
Their business is popping, right?
Right.
And then you see other people that when they their version of listening gets them to where they're at, right? So how
Exactly.
are you able to tap in and hone that listening so sharp so then you could execute?
Man, that's a talent that I developed since I was young.
Mm,
Like I said, that's something who I've always been to as well. Personally, I have, like I said, I'm a deep person. I have like an ability to discern. But a way that you can work on that skill would be to just surrounding yourself with different people. And I'm going to stress this so many times because it's literally how I learned. Like I said, I grew up in the hood, had the advantage of going, getting an education or some education at a private school for a couple of years. With the thanks to Salvation Army, who granted me a scholarship to go to those school. That right there took me from immediately being out of the hood to being in a private school with people that thought completely different from me. Like they didn't have to they didn't have to. And at that time too, when you're young, you're just being yourself. So it was
yeah.
easy to pick up on their authentic self. And they weren't trying to sell me anything either. So that's another, like someone who's not trying to sell you anything, they're going to be themselves and just be, who they are, and picking up on their, behavioral differences, um, the way they talk, the way they even listen, the way they eat and what they eat. These are things that like I just picked up on naturally growing up, and then going to college, same thing. Going to Wake Forest. I don't know the demographic at this school. I can't even tell you. But it was definitely the only the black people were the athletes for
For sure.
say about people were the athletes. I'll just be 100% honest. Black
Yeah.
Americans were the athletes. So, just being around different people constantly is what, how I developed the keen ears to actually hear the differences and hear, certain things that were, I can pick up on and, you know, help my career and, also add value to their career by them hearing me as well. So, yeah, I hope that answered the question. I think I kind of got away from it just a little bit, but
Not at all, bro. No, I'm tapped in. Like
yeah, perfect. We
I
good.
have like 100 thoughts going. I'm just like, hold up, hold up.
Here we go.
I think, in all honesty, bro, like a lot of people are gonna relate to you because your story is one of the things my mentor always says is there's only so many stories, Kev.
Yeah.
Right? There's only so many stories. Like the near death experience, or the somebody that came from, um, the hood, or there's only so many different variations of the same story,
Facts. Right.
right? And I think people are having a hard time remembering that and tapping into that frequency and understanding that
Right.
everything that's going on, nothing is new. It's a variation of
Under
things
the
that have
sun.
already happened.
Sorry to cut you off. I was just saying, yeah, my mom always says nothing new under the sun.
Exactly. 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 Like especially like, with Eric Gardner and
Right.
Sandra Bland, like that is not a new story
Other story at all.
at all.
Yeah, man. It's
Does that upset you, bro? Does that upset you that people think that's so new and they're so shocked?
uh
Like honestly, does that kind of upset you deep down?
no, I would say that upsets me. Um I'm just happy that change is happening. Where
Yeah.
it's actually tangible in a sense. So if anything, I'm happy than being upset.
Mm,
Um it's frustrating somewhat in the past where it's just like the acknowledgement wasn't there, the awareness wasn't there. So becoming more aware, and where people are forced to become more aware, where it's like
mm,
you can't even avoid it anymore. Like if you're gonna open your phone, you're probably gonna see something at a
mm,
certain at a certain time when things were really heated up. Everyone in the world saw what was happening,
mm,
um, and while the world was at a standstill, you're able to process it a lot differently. So I think that that's one of going to be, hasn't I haven't really heard too much about that yet. But maybe I'm just not listening. Speaking of
mm,
listening, but I think that you know being still for all the goers and doers out there, when they were actually still, they actually had to self-reflect and actually reflect on what was going on, and that is what created that radical change. I feel like in some people's hearts,
mm,
where they were just like, you know what, this has been going on, and this does need to change. This space right here, for the ones that have changed, um, they had that radical change during that still moment, where you're at home, maybe alone there with your family, but you're not going out to the movies, you're not partying, you're not in the club, you're not at the restaurants, you're at your house
Man,
chilling.
it's been a minute since I've been in the club.
Right, you know what I'm saying? It's been a minute since
Woo!
and it's gonna be a minute before I ever do that again. But it's one of those things where, like I said, just it doesn't make me mad. It makes me happy that people are becoming more aware. Um, and the lack of awareness, you can't really be mad at people. Some people are really great people, a lot of people, and that's I value people. I believe, something I said earlier was I believe people are the number one currency, and if you're able to value people, they'll value you as well. So just being being valued, and taking what you learned during that still moment, and taking that ignorance and making it into something that now you're actually being cognitive of, I should say, then it's 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 for the betterment, and I'm happy for it. Yeah.
I feel that, man. I think a lot of people have that sentiment, man. It's like, nope, we're not going to be upset at people. We're just glad. You know what I mean? And that is a there's definitely two schools of thought, right? And I think both are correct in my honest opinion. It's okay to
Yeah.
be angry, but it's also okay to not be angry.
Facts. I agree. I mean, I wouldn't say I agree 100%. The only reason I think to be to be angry and to give that energy and to give them your energy that way, um,
Mm,
is not as advantageous as to, you know, not ignore it, but to use that in a positive manner, and not
gotcha.
like it's something that, I've been beaten down, I've been oppressed. Like having that mindset is not good for anyone.
Yeah, you feel like the victim mindset is just not going to help anybody, is what you're saying.
Mindset is not going to help you reach any type of goal that you have, no matter what it is. So get that mindset out of here. If you're asking me personally like that, I don't
Mm,
ever being the victim is going to get you anywhere. Because if I hadn't been the victim, I'll probably still, be doing the same things I've done in the past. It's just,
mm,
what was me? I'm from the hood. I can't really make it out. Like, I'll just be sitting
mm,
around listening to rap music or something like just like, oh yeah, this is what I'm going through. This is what I'm gonna have
mm.
to, like no white person's giving me a job, or you know what I mean?
I
Like
see.
have mentality and mindset is not good for anyone. You got to be able to rise above that. Be optimistic about your own um, life, and take your own life
Mm.
into take control of your own life and your own destiny, and make better decisions.
I appreciate that honesty, bro, because a lot of people wouldn't be that honest. Just keeping
Yeah,
it real.
yeah, I keep it
That's real.
always keep it 100.
No, I definitely agree, like to an extent too, because I think as much as I want to be sympathetic and everything, it's imagine though how like imagine how Sandra Bland's family's feeling,
Yeah,
right? Like put yourself in their shoes for like 5 minutes. Like, is it really that bad for you right now to be
right,
angry and upset out loud and putting your energy and time there permanently?
right,
Maybe not. Maybe like you said, and maybe it is better to put it towards change and positivity and
mhm,
inclusion and things like that.
right.
Um, yeah, yeah, man, that's deep.
Yeah.
I think
That,
a lot of people struggle with being honest about where they're at with that.
oh yeah, I agree. I agree. And
Yeah.
you got to choose a side. It's not even necessarily. Let me take that back. It's not even a side. You got to do what's right. Just do what's right. It's that simple. It's not. It's a right or wrong. It's not. No. There's no gray areas. It's black and white. Do what's right. That rhymes. Black and white. Do what's right. Hashtag. Hashtag.
Hashtag you was right.
What's right.
Go, man. Well, hey, um, I'd love for you to tell the people kind of what you're doing in your organization, where they can find you,
Yeah.
what's going on, what's the best way to connect with you, and then we'll say goodbye.
All right, sweet man. All right, again, my name is Josh Hunt. Obviously it's on the bottom of the screen. Shout out again to Sync Lab Media, using the studio. Shout out to Venture X, out here in Addison, Texas, where you can find me on Instagram at jhunteta.
Mm,
Then you can find me on at Josh Hunt, and you can also find the organization that I'm a co-founder of is ETA Bolt. That is our Instagram is ETA Bolt. And what we do at ETA Bolt again is we bridge the gap between culture and corporate. We work with certain organizations. I would say certain, but we work with large organizations on their leadership teams on diversity, inclusion, whether that's cultural topics that are similar to, like I said, mental health. We have a broad range of experts that we have speak on these
mm,
topics, and we're able to increase engagement for companies as well through all the things that I just talked about, from being authentic to the different experiences. And we also consult and do brand activation. So anyone who needs a brand
Dope.
activation, if you don't know what that is, it's basically experimental marketing. You take
Yep.
a brand and we take your core values and everything that you do at your organization, and we just basically, you know, put a little sauce to it, for better lack of words. We sauce it to relate to a larger demographic. Um, and we've been doing it for 2 years now. So, you know, I'm definitely a professional in that space. And I look forward to, you know, this journey and continuing to help other people, because at the end of the day, that's what it does. It's helping people, you know, reach larger demographics and just reach new heights in life and find purpose as well. So, yeah,
Dope, man.
appreciate you having
Awesome, man.
me. I really
Man,
do.
it's been real fun, bro.